school. We will start this first week with Dr. Nienke van der Marel. She's coming from Leiden Institution, the observatory in the Netherlands, and she will be talking about planet formation in ALMA during this week. Some small news. Thursday is a holiday, just remember that, so you don't have to come here on Thursday. We will be having a schedule that is 9, 20, 12, 45, right? Then we have 1 hour break for lunch, and then we'll be back at 1:45 until 5. 5:30. Okay.
Yeah, I'll share the schedule in a minute.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, she will show the
It
schedule.
always gets a bit flexible to our schedule. So
Yeah, and I will put the schedule also on the webpage. I haven't, sorry. But it will be on the webpage, so please welcome Nick. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation, and the space is yours.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Islam, for inviting me, and thank you guys for coming. I hope you're really excited. Also, so my name is Nienke, so please call me Nienke, not professor or anything. I don't really respond to that. I only became a professor last year, so it's still rather new to the whole concept. So I hope this will be a little bit okay. So a little bit, if you, I think I made it a bit dark in the room. These are just pretty big. Is that okay? So let me start with telling you a little bit about myself. So I was born and raised, guys, traditions. I remember this was. Please come in. I'll just give you. I'll wait a minute. No. Take your time, just get your stuff out of it. I only just started, so yeah. My name is Nienke, and I was just telling a little bit about my career. So after my studies, my PhD in Leiden, I was invited to do my postdocs in another part of the world, maybe in the United States. And I managed to find a position as far away as possible from Leiden. Not that I wanted to escape, but to talk to the opportunities that I got at the University of Leiden, down here in the Pacific, where I worked for 2 years as a parent fellow. This is the name of the fellowship. I don't have children. It's not a typo. And then after 2 years, I actually I got another position at the NRC Würzburg Institute in Victoria, which is aerospace building. It's actually right here. So this is Victoria is located on Vancouver Island. It's a very large island in front of Vancouver, so on the west coast of Canada. Where I worked for 2 years at the Würzburg Institute, and then got another fellowship to work at the University of Victoria, basically in the same city. And then, so around my 5th year, I started applying faculty jobs, and Leiden, my home institute, was actually looking for someone in my field, so I was very lucky to get a position here as a staff member, assistant professor last year. I've been here a little bit over a year now. It's been very nice to be back. If you want to find out more about me, I also have a website, Marel.com, and I forgot to mention it, my page. I also have a Twitter account. I know Herman is on Twitter because he's been following and liking my tweets for many years. And maybe some of you are as well. Feel free to follow me. I post mostly about astronomy stuff. So. Okay, so what's a little bit of my research? I already mentioned that I started my PhD with essentially some of the first ALMA observations. But over the years, I've started to expand that further. So I don't just look at the inputs of ALMA equivalent this. I really try to focus on the big questions in planet formation. So how can we grow pebbles from the smallest grains all the way to millimeters grains. How can we understand these gaps that we see in interplanetary disks? If they are planets, how can we link that to the exoplanets that we see today? And essentially, so how can we interpret this structure? How can we understand the accretion process onto the gas giants? And finally, what is the link with composition? In particular, I'm interested in the composition of the icy pebbles. So these are the large dust grains outside the ice lines, where a lot of molecules are frozen out, where again that material may eventually end up on the planets, determining the exoplanet atmosphere composition. So our research are really trying to combine this observation with what we know about exoplanets in order to unravel this big question: where do we come from? Where do all the planets come from? Okay. So a little bit more about me, because outside of astronomy I have a lot of hobbies. These are just some pictures from mostly my adventures in Canada and Hawaii. Because for the past year in the Netherlands we still had quite a lockdown, so I didn't do that much. But well, in Hawaii, obviously I like to go to Mauna Kea to do observatories and telescopes, but also to look at the beautiful night sky, which you can't see, but the Milky Way is visible there at night. I also really like hiking and climbing in nature, cycling, also in the mountains, dancing. I do salsa, bachata, kizomba, kayaking, canoeing, and snowshoeing. These are all kind of things that I enjoy in my spare time. Another thing that because I like to travel, I can speak several languages to someone, and I obviously, before coming here, I started practicing my Spanish again. Hablo un poquito español. Quiero decir formación de planetas y discos de voltean estrellas juguetes. Puede decir, Manuel, ¿cómo estás? ¿Te gusta jugar al fútbol? I can continue like this, but yeah, it's obviously my Spanish is unfortunately not good enough to teach this course in Spanish, so I'll stick to English for now. But yeah, I know some basic words, and I do hope to practice a little bit maybe over lunch if you want to help me. And I'm determined to keep doing Duolingo as well. So if I have a break, you may see me playing Duolingo. Okay. So for this week, you've already seen the schedule that was sent out by email. I also have printed copies here. And then we have this take a copy and pass it around. It's the same as what Esteban sent last week. But I have some copies. So we have 4 days. In those 4 days, we're going to have 7 lectures. Each lecture will be about 1.5 hours and have a break in between. Obviously, during those lectures, feel free to raise your hand anytime if something is not clear. I will have questions for you sometimes just to make sure that you haven't followed. And so I hope we can make this a little bit interactive. Then we're also going to do an ALMA tutorial. So we're going to teach you how to reduce ALMA data, how to make ALMA images. We're going to do that this afternoon. And then after that, we're going to do an actually ALMA data reduction project. So I found a data set in the ALMA archive that is not published yet, and I think there could be some interesting things in there. I've done the sort of initial calibration reduction process, so I have all of that on my hard drive with me that I'm going to give you. I have created a number of small sub-projects so that each of you can focus on one particular aspect of this data set. Since I was told there were going to be 28 students, we would work in pairs because I only have 14 projects. We can see how this works out, how many people are here. So let's decide that later in the afternoon. And then the second project I'll do this week is a literature project, paper presentation. So I have a whole stack of publications with really interesting ALMA results from, well, I think there's a few from early ALMA, most of them are from the last 5 years. So they're pretty recent results.
Obviously, I will mention some of these results also during the lectures. But by reading the paper yourself and preparing a 10-minute presentation, I hope you will be able to dive into the details a little bit deeper and really get some understanding. So the idea of the paper presentation, data production project, is to do this every day. Like we have a lecture, then we have some time for projects, a lecture, time for projects. Ideally, you work in the same pairs because then you can kind of continue dividing your time either doing some online production or doing some literature reading. And then on Friday, I'm going to ask all of you to present the work that you've done both on the online production and also on the presentation. Final point of this, please ask questions either during the lectures, at the end of the lectures, during the lunch break, whenever you would like to know more. Because I found out that there have been way too many discoveries to fit into 7 lectures. But otherwise. Okay, so for the lectures itself, I divided them up like this. So this morning, we're going to give you an overview of the study of protoplanetary disk and also a bit of the history. Then this afternoon, I'll talk about the basics of interferometry and ALMA. Then tomorrow, we're going to talk about disk evolution, both of the gas and the dust. And in the afternoon, disk substructures, so gaps, rings, asymmetries, spirals, and also dimensions of planets, forming planets. Then on Wednesday, I'll talk about the disk mass, dust and gas, and how we calculate that. And in the afternoon, we'll talk about chemistry in the disk. I already mentioned the chemistry is linked to the composition of exoplanets. And also a bit about kinematics, so how does material move in a disk and what can we learn from that. And then on Friday, so this is more like a bonus lecture. That time I'm going to talk about exoplanets, planet formation theory. This is obviously not about ALMA, this is more about sort of what can we do with ALMA, how can we fit this in the framework of exoplanets and planet formation. I hope all of that will work out. As for the lecture slides, I can email the PDFs if you want. Essentially the night before or maybe the morning of the lectures, if you want to make notes of that. Do people like that? Okay, I see a few people nodding, so I'll just get the mailing list and then. So unfortunately, I still am preparing some of the lectures, so I cannot email everything right now. But in the break today, I will make sure to email the lecture slides from today. Hopefully that will help you also the information. There's also sometimes website links and written text on the slides so that you don't have to write everything out. So this is the program of this week, which is also on the handout. I already mentioned we're doing lecture and then project. As I mentioned, every day we kind of continue till 5:30 with project, but if you have to leave a bit earlier, then that's fine. On Thursday it's a holiday. There's one little issue with the schedule because something that happened last Friday. The Netherlands beat the United States in the World Cup, and that meant that we went through to the quarterfinals. And the quarterfinals are on Friday. Luckily, they are playing at a time that I'm not teaching, that you guys actually do projects. So I don't know if any of you are soccer fans. I also don't know if you support Argentina. I hope not. But obviously, I want Netherlands to win. But I am going to try to watch a little bit of the game. Of course, while you work on the project, if you have a question, please disturb me. Don't feel like I'm not available. But yeah, just want to add that this is going to be part of the week. And I do hope I can find a website where I can watch the game, but maybe you guys can help with that. And also I hope we won't come to penalties because they were really running out of time. We'll figure that out. Maybe we're done in 30 minutes. Okay. So before I start talking, I kind of want to hear from you guys. What do you think about when I say
planet formation. I'm just going to write words down. So please tell me. Give me a word. What do you think?
Why is it?
Why is it?
Accretion.
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 Ooh. No. Sorry. You said the data goes to the word.
Not completely.
Sorry, I feel like I'm
No, it is.
Anything else?
Planetesimal.
Planetesimals. It's good. We are definitely going to talk about all these topics. Maybe all four? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's not the kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure we can expand that list later on. But it will give us a few things to start. So, lecture one, overview of protoplanetary disks. So, okay, we got disks. That's positive. So the sort of contents for today are I'm going to talk a little bit about exoplanets as a motivation for why we study protoplanetary disks. And what are protoplanetary disks? How do we define them? How can we observe them? How can we observe the dust and the gas that is present in these disks? Then a bit more about the discovery and also the history, kind of different studies, the different telescopes that we've used over the years. The basic evolution and lifetime, we'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow, but just as a brief overview. Then, again, from history perspective, a new era where we suddenly had images of this. This will probably be after the break. And then finally about processes in this group. So all the other than planet formation, a lot of other things are happening. So I'm actually going to see if I can still hear it. You can still see me. Okay, so we're going to start with this plot of exoplanets. And has anyone seen this plot before? No? No clue? Ah, you have. Okay, so what are we looking at?
Sorry.
So what are we looking at? What are all the data points showing?
Okay, now this mass it's a major axis plot. So you can see how the population of exoplanets is distributed around different stars.
Yes and no. So what we see in this plot are all the detections of exoplanets that were made until today. It's more than the count is now more than 5,000. And indeed, we can, for each of these planets, we can measure the mass and their orbital distance from the star within some assumptions. Then also, we can see in the colors the different techniques that were used to discover them. And there you can already notice that there are that different techniques are sensitive to different types of planets. So essentially, transit and radial velocity are in particular transit is sensitive to planets really close to the host star. So obviously, both of these are sensitive to the most massive planets, essentially Jupiter and sort of 10% of Jupiter within one astronomical unit. Remember here, this attention 0, this is 1 AU. You can also see that Earth is located right here. Then, if we go for microlensing, we're actually not sensitive to planets that are very close to the star. We're kind of in the intermediate regime. Direct imaging, so we're going to block the star to see the planet itself. We're only sensitive to the very massive planets at very large orbital radii. We cannot use this technique very close to the star. So what that means is that all of these detections, like this plot itself, it doesn't actually say that much about the occurrence of the planets. It just shows how many we're able to detect. We're going to see that also a little bit more on Friday, that this picture is pretty skewed in that sense because of our detection devices. What we also see is okay, here we go. What we also see is are the different positions of the solar system planets. They're shown here in black. To the circle around. Yeah, sorry, Mark, you didn't click the circle. And so just based on the position of the planets, we can already see that the exoplanets that we're discovering are in a completely different parameter space than the solar system. And so this is really interesting because planet formation theory was for a very long time was entirely based on the solar system. The fact that the rocky planets inside, the gas giants outside. All the models were essentially just trying to reproduce that kind of behavior. And then we discovered that there are all these other types of planets, like hot Jupiters, Jupiter-mass planets very close to the star, gas giants, well, they are somewhat similar to Jupiter and Saturn, but also much higher masses, and white orbit giants, which don't exist in our solar system. These are all planets that we didn't really know, and then kind of the weirdest ones are the super Earths, or sub-Neptunes. These are planets with a mass in between Earth and Neptune. Like I said, planet formation theory was based on the idea that you only have two types of planets. You have either something very small like Earth or something very massive, like Jupiter, Saturn, or Neptune. And now we have this whole other combination that is actually being common. That we now need to produce as well. So, this is one of the biggest challenges of planet formation theory is actually to try to understand how we can form all these different types of planets in different systems. And this is also what we want to achieve by disk studies. Again, we're looking at the bigger picture, not just at something that will be common for solar systems. That is a very big challenge because we have to grow things that are smaller than a micrometer, many orders of magnitude to get to these large planets. And what is actually worse is that most of these steps we cannot even observe directly. We can observe dust grains that are small, that are basically up to a millimeter in size. This is what we can do with ALMA and also with infrared observations. We can observe exoplanets. We've already seen that in the exoplanet diagram. But all these steps in between, these are not detectable in other systems. And all we can do is infer their properties from theory or maybe sort of additional effects. Maybe the migration we can understand a little bit from these properties. But there's simply a lot of unknowns here. And I hope I can convince this to you that even with that limited information that we know these cloud access. And some of these clouds will become in the clouds, so the material is still feeding to the star. And as you do to the conservation of angular momentum, you form pretty quickly a disk, like a flattened rotating structure around the young star, and then the material will fall onto the disk and through the disk onto the star. This, at the same time, you usually get a jet that is perpendicular to the disk that starts to blow away material. Again, this has to do with conservation of angular momentum. So in that way you can get rid of that surrounding cloud. All of this happens in kind of the first million years, 500,000 years. Then after a million years, usually the cloud is completely gone. We're left with a protoplanetary disk. And that protoplanetary disk lives several million years. So you can see these in the sky in optical images as sort of black shadows against a bright background. And these clusters are usually named after the constellation that they're located. So they don't really have anything to do with the constellation, but just in the same direction. Also doesn't tell you anything about the future. So what is it that we're looking at? You can see these are optical images. Why does it look black? Why does it start from the cloud look black? Dust. Very good. Yeah. So the dust is absorbing the light from the stars behind it.
And that is what we're seeing then a lot. So this is kind of a schematic overview of different clusters in our surroundings. So we are located right here. And then Orion, which is very famous star from cloud, is located at about 400 parsecs. But closer to us, we already have clouds like Ophiuchus, Lupus, Taurus, Upper Scope, and I'm missing Ophiuchus Medium. These are all located at sort of 100, 150 parsecs. So these are clusters that you're going to hear most about simply because they're closer to us. Orion is a bit further away. There are a lot of very bright stars. There are OB stars that actually affect the star formation and disk formation process. The density goes up, obviously, so it goes to about 10 to the 4 to the 28. And because they get denser, also the temperature drops. And then eventually when the disk is formed, we actually have an even larger range of temperatures because now we suddenly have that star that creates a radiation field. So very close to the star, we get very high temperatures compared to further out in the disk. And also in terms of density, we see a large range of possible density. This is why disks are so interesting to study, also from a physics perspective, because we have this wide range of conditions in a relatively small amount of space. Also, we know that in clouds, instead of medium, there's 100 times more gas than dust. In disks, we use that assumption, and you will see this in almost every single paper, but it's only because we have to make some assumption. We don't know for sure. We're starting with the evidence that maybe this gas to dust ratio is very different in this due to the different processes that govern the dust and govern the gas. But overall, even if we talk about dense clouds or dense conditions in this, we are actually still pretty much accurate compared to what we have here. Which is in a way a good thing. It means that all the processes happen very soon. So we have time to study. Okay. So how do we study or how do we observe clouds and disks? How you mentioned, we can study gas and we can study dust. And here's an example of a dusty cloud. This is actually Orstein nebula Orion in visible light and optical light and then infrared light. And now my question is to you, in visible there's actually blocking the light, right? We just talked about that. But if we go to longer wavelengths, we start to see material. And in fact we see we're more sensitive there to the colder material that is emitting the light there. So why is that? What is the mechanism that creates this infrared emission at the infrared wavelengths?
Is it just black radiation because of colder black bodies
Exactly.
low wavelength?
As everyone heard about before. It's this kind of weird asymmetric bell shape.